since then, so you can find me over at vognetwork.com, vognetwork.com. I do my show live on Twitch every Sunday night at 8 o'clock for about 1 hour, and it's like an AM radio talk show because I'm old, and that's how I started, and I just don't like quitting things. And now you never have to hear about me again for the next hour. So, let us talk to the people that you are actually here to see. Right here to my left is Ellen McLain.
Killing you and giving you good advice aren't mutually exclusive. The rocket really is the way to go.
And then John Patrick Lowrie. Girardi! So I always like to ask about where we are and what you think. Have you been to the Southern Fried Gaming Expo before? I can't remember, but what do you think of it, and what do you think of being here in Atlanta?
Oh, well, we've been to several cons in Atlanta. You came to MomoCon once. We both were at SiegeCon. We were both at Dragon Con, but we haven't been here for a few years. And it's interesting. Of course, we fly through Atlanta fairly regularly, but we don't get. And then your sister lived in Roswell for a while, so we've known Atlanta for a long time. I went to school in Indiana, and my dad lived in Miami, and so I would hitchhike back and forth through Atlanta. And none of you ever gave me a ride, so we need to talk about that.
There's going to be one person out here that works for Uber who's like, yes, I did.
Yeah, right. But they have to be like 7,000 years old, or they wouldn't have seen it. So, but yeah, no, Atlanta's great. I love you guys' symphony. The Braves are doing well this year, which, since I'm a Mariners fan, I hate that, but go Braves. And so I grew up in Boulder, Colorado, and we live in Seattle now, so my two favorite football teams are the Broncos and the Seahawks. And the Broncos kind of demolished Atlanta years and years ago. And did the Seahawks ever do anything to Atlanta?
I'm sure they did.
Yeah. I think, what can we say about that? I drank a lot of the Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think the interesting thing, okay, so John and I were born in 1952. And of course, I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee. And both Nashville and Atlanta were these little sleepy places. And do you know what set Atlanta off? Liquor by the drink. I am very serious about this because Nashville was dry. And so you could not drink at a restaurant in Nashville. But Atlanta passed the law that you could, all these blue laws about when you could drink and when you couldn't. And Atlanta got liquor by the drink, and all these businesses came to Atlanta.
So, show of hands, how many functional alcoholics here?
This is history. This is history. We love Atlanta. We love the aquarium. I have been to the opera here. I have been to the symphony here. And yes, my sister did live in Roswell for many, many, many years. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's the kind of the old town park that you have? Kind of the mall that's in the old town park? No?
In Roswell or in
in downtown Atlanta.
Underground Atlanta.
Yeah, I really like that one part of the Atlanta Underground about 2 blocks down, right along the curb, about 15 feet from one of the doorways. That part's really
do any of you all remember the restaurant that was the pirate ship? Yes, okay, that was my nephew's favorite restaurant, and we ate there. So you entered a pirate ship and were on the ship for dinner. I bet you remember that, Bob.
I do remember that a little bit, yeah.
So have we fully answered your question?
Yes.
Okay, good.
But here at Southern Fried Gaming Expo, have you been able to walk around? Do you have a go-to pinball game or something that you go?
Well,
I've been busy.
Okay.
I'm an old pinball guy.
Yes,
She told me there was pinball.
and I kept it from him, because yesterday I met some people and they said, oh yeah, right over there is a pinball room. And I said, well, don't tell John, because that's where he'll be the whole time.
There's a
Ask me
pinball
if
room
that's
over
the
there.
first time she's lied to me.
So what is your go-to pinball? Like if you had it, like from your old days?
Well, I mean, you know, I remember, I started out as a musician, and so I spent a lot of time in bars and stuff like that, and there were a lot of old, like from the 50s, pinball machines, that, you know, like 3 bumpers and a flipper, and that was it. And I remember when they started putting fancy stuff in them. Remember there was one pinball game called, I believe it was Fireball, that had a spinning disc with grooves on it, so that when the ball came down to that, it would like get shot off in weird ways and stuff like that. And then they started adding a second flipper down there with the little things where, you know, and then they started adding flippers up to the top, and then they started adding a second level. And by this time, I mean it's practically its own universe in there.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I ever had a favorite. It was just whatever was in the bar that I was playing, and I would go work it. You know?
So let's talk about the acting. So you both mentioned like the symphony and the opera, so I'm kind of leading the question here, but how did you get into acting? Like what was your pathway to performing and then acting?
So when I was born,
Like we all were.
right. How many people here, show of hands, who all was born? Good, so you understand that
But
part?
he has an interesting I was born story.
Right, unlike your I was born story. And when I was born in Triple Army Hospital in Honolulu, Hawaii, the nurses all called me the B-29 because I cried 2 octaves lower than all the other babies. There's a whole chorus of and then there was me, could I get a diaper change here? Diaper change. And in 1st grade, they had me be the narrator of the Christmas pageant because, and I quote, he sounds just like Walter Cronkite. So that was my first acting gig. My first paid acting gig. So Ellen and I met on a European tour of a Broadway show called Showboat. And she was the romantic lead, she was Magnolia, and I played guitar and banjo in the pit orchestra. And I had done a lot of acting in high school and in college and stuff like that. And I realized that the actors were getting paid more than the musicians. And so I started lobbying to get, when one actor went back to New York, I said, you know, I could, now that the understudy took over, we didn't have an understudy for that role, and I said, I could understudy that role, And I finally talked them into it, and so my first paid acting gig was in Palermo, Sicily, telling jokes to a bunch of people who didn't speak English. It was great. But that's how I got into acting. But I really got into acting because I met her, and she obviously loved the way I looked because she said, you know, you ought to be a voice actor. You have the perfect face for radio. So, and then she and I got together, and we started, and I started doing theater with her. And then when we moved out to Seattle, I went ahead and got an agent, and this was in 1989. So before really any video games were using actors yet. And I got an agent. I was doing, you know, QFC commercials and Boeing industrial films and, you know, Microsoft stuff and all this kind of stuff. And then in 1994, I believe, I got my first audition for a video game, which I believe was Spy Fox Breakfast Cereal. Any of you guys old enough to remember that one? It's one person, and you're going to be shunned by the rest of the room now. Yeah, I mean, and then I was in Betrayal at Antara and Total Annihilation, No One Lives Forever, No One Lives Forever 2, The Suffering 1 and 2, and I just started doing more and more video games because I'd land the auditions. And it's important for anyone. How many young women here want to go into acting? One hesitant hand. So you're really basically a very smart group of people. But one of the challenges of being a female actor is that when you're young and pretty, there are all kinds of roles for you. And then when you're like 35, all of a sudden you're too old for all the young roles, but you're not old enough for the older roles. And what do they call it, the valley or something like that, the gap,
as being an ingenue, when John and I met, I was the ingenue. I was the sweet, pretty young thing. And then...
The sweet she had to act, but the
yes,
pretty she had to act.
That's right. But then, really, as John said, you reach a point where you can't play the young roles and you're not old enough to play the character women. I was really born a character woman, which I have realized in years since.
You've grown into it.
I have grown into it. And so there was sort of a pause in my career where I wasn't working as much. So then John said...
Well, it wasn't that I said, I just started haranguing her. I said, well, why don't you get a voice demo? Oh, no, they just hire men. They won't, I don't have the right kind of voice.
And I was wrong.
And 7 short years later, she finally got a voice demo. And
yeah, I didn't get my demo until 2002.
And so I've been doing video game after video game after video game. I was in, The Matrix Online, SWAT 2, Championship, bass fishing, that was a big one. And then, Ellen finally gets a voice demo, and she does GLaDOS, and, skyrockets.
No, and talk about interesting jobs. I'm also the voice of the runway alert system that's used in 90% of the commercial airports in the world.
So another show of hands, how many people here suffer from an irrational fear of flying? Not any, okay. So now, there's a couple. So now you have a real fear for flying, okay? She's flying the plane.
There are actually 2 voices. I'm the female runway alert system voice, and then another actor from Seattle is the male. And we update this stuff all the time, and I say things like, climb now, descend now. And they put down the copy for me to read in green, and I'm supposed to sound very calm and friendly, and then in yellow, which is a little bit heightened, and then in red. And I am the voice in the pilot's ear that comes on automatically when the pilot gets a certain distance from the airport. You hear this automatic voice saying, what the distance from the airport, the plane is, and which altitude you are, and whether you need to go this way or this way, and it's my voice.
And as I recall, only the female voice calls the pilot fat.
I think that's correct.
You're the only one that insults the pilot.
Yes, and we did.
You
John,
and your extra 30 pounds need to climb
once-
7,000 feet.
John once told the pilot, because as you get off the plane.
Oh, every once in a while the pilot's right there, and I say, "She's," well, and of course, you know what they call her? You know what they call the female voice? Bitchin' Betty. So I go by and say, "She's Bitchin' Betty," and they totally geek out, just like you guys. They're like, "Oh, really? No, she's..." They totally lose it.
So have you done an airline convention yet?
We're hoping.
Somebody get on that. So how did you both get involved with Valve? So now we've talked about how you got into acting. So how did the relationship with Valve come about?
So the entire business of acting runs on auditions. If you want to act in theater, you have to audition for a play. If you want to act in a film, you have to audition for the film. If you want to act in, and really, since there weren't any video games with actors, I just, my agent would send me any auditions that she thought that I was right for. I think one thing that I understood early on that I think maybe perhaps some of my acting colleagues didn't is that people who designed games were serious, that they wanted their games to be a cinematic experience with absolutely top-notch acting. And I think some of my colleagues might have kind of phoned it in And I just totally went with it because, of course, particularly early on, most video game acting was basically playing Army. You got Charlie! All this kind of stuff. And so I had a great time. But it's all done by audition. And when Valve started working on Half-Life 2, they sent out auditions to our agent, and our agent sent it to us, and we each auditioned, and she didn't even know that she was auditioning for a video game.
I read the copy, I did the audition, I got the gig, I went into the studio, I recorded all the stuff.
And she was Overwatch in Half-Life 2.
And I thought I was just sort of some kind of announcer voice teaching people something. And then when the game came out, they sent us a box of merch. And I said to John, what is all this stuff? What's all this stuff? He said, well, that's for the game we did. And I said, we did a game?
So I think it was her deep systemic knowledge of the entire video game industry that stood her in such good stead, But they had no idea that we were married to each other because she's McLain and I'm Lowrie and all that kind of stuff. And then they just happened to hire us both for Team Fortress 2. And at one point, they would have us in every once in a while. And at one point, they booked us in successive gigs, successive slots, right? And she went in there, just being friendly and her Nashville self. And she said, well, I hear you're working with my husband next. And they went, who? Who's that? And that's when they first found out that we were married. And then, of course, they had to call us in to be the bickering married couple at the end of Left 4 Dead. So. But really, how you get to work for any video game company is audition. They send out an audition.
Do they still make you audition now for other Valve games, or like?
Yes.
Not me.
Yes.
It's interesting you say other Valve games. How many games are we talking about? Now, when they put out Half-Life Alyx, they wanted Ellen to come back for Overwatch.
Yeah, they needed Overwatch, so they just had me come back because I did the voice of Overwatch.
But since it was either much earlier or much later in the timeline, they didn't want me to do the Citizens again because they thought that would be weird.
No, it was a prequel.
Prequel, right. But then when they started working on Deadlock, my friend Steve, who writes for him, just called me in. He knew he wanted me to be Professor Dynamo, and so I didn't have to audition for that. But even as late as Dota, which was in the early 2000 or 2010, something like that. They knew they wanted to use me, but they sent probably 25 heroes, and then they ended up hiring me for 7. Okay. So that explains
and
that.
I auditioned and auditioned and auditioned and auditioned and didn't get anything on Dota. And happened to talk to Bill Van Buren, who was one of the producers, and he said, don't worry, Ellen, we're saving you for something more poisonous. And I did. I did Brood Mother and Death Prophet.
That's right.
So let's talk about the sniper a little bit. What did you base the personality of Sniper on, or because I know the writing's there, but obviously as the actor, you also have input on what it's like. Where did you get the inspiration for Sniper and in Sniper's demeanor in saying the lines that were written for you?
Okay, well, first I'd like to get out of the way one myth about the Sniper. It turns out actually, a lot of people don't believe this, but Sniper actually is a massively masterful lover. Just great at sex. It's not that he's not great at it, it's just that he never does it. So the Sniper really appealed to me. When I auditioned for Sniper, they sent me, I believe, 4 different mercs, and just had me audition for all 4. But they told me that they were kind of thinking of me for Sniper, and they told me that they were kind of thinking that he was Australian, but they asked me to give, 4 or 5 different accents, which I did. And they went ahead and picked the Australian one. The great thing, and of course, they always give you some artwork, and then some lines, some gameplay lines, the kinds of things that he says when action's going on, and then some kind of lines that are more indicative of his personality and stuff like that. And what hit me even before Meet the Sniper, this is before we really learned that he was a professional and he considered it a job, but he just seemed to me to be a working guy. And I've always felt very, very close to working people, regular old jobs, farmers, blacksmiths, whatever, just regular old working guys. And his rhythm and his attitude toward the other mercs, was really just I don't know what these guys are doing. I'm a professional. I do things right, and I found, and there was a lot of humor in that for me. And of course, Eric and Jay are all about humor, and so
the writers.
Oh yeah, Eric Wolpaw and Jay Falisak. No, Jay Pickerton, right? Sorry. But that's how I approached it. Is that this guy was just doing his job, and he was very calm and very patient, because that's what he needed to be a sniper. And he had kind of an attitude about some of the other mercs.
So we're going to get to some questions, like audience questions. We've got somebody that's going to have a mic coming around. I want to hear your questions as well. But I do want to, before we get to the audience questions, this is going to be a question that everybody's going to have, I'm sure. And I want you to help explain, why does Gabe Newell hate the number 3?
Okay, so Gabe is a massive believer in reincarnation, and he believes that his third incarnation, he was the third son of a third son, and on March 3rd, 333 AD, his mother was attacked by a giant 3. And he's never gotten over it. Fortunately, Valve starts on the 14th floor of the building that it's in. Early on, it was in the second floor of a building where we originally worked, and then they expanded into the third floor. Not a good idea. Gabe was in horrible straits the whole time. So they moved to a bigger building where they went up to the 9th floor, and that was okay. Now they're up at the 14th floor, not even the 13th floor. They go from 14 to 17, not a 3 to be seen anywhere. Now, this is, the last time that he really had trouble was when we learned that genders weren't binary. There are more than 2 genders, and it's like, he's fine with 5 or 7 or 8 or 9 genders. He just doesn't know how to get from 2 to 4.
He'd never make it in music.
Right.
You have to count to 4.
That's right. Just couldn't do it.
All right, so I think we've got somebody with a microphone, so raise your hands, and then, unfortunately with these lights, I can't actually see that well in there, so I'm going to rely on the person with the mic to kind of, so that we have, it looks like we have a question right back here.
So when you have a request for different accents, is that something that you work with like a coach on specific accents, or do you study that yourself and just sort of practice and then give it your best?
Well, that's an interesting question. Recently, I was at a studio, and they told me that they wanted me to do a New England accent, and so I went away for an hour and worked on it by listening to Katharine Hepburn on YouTube, and came back in and did the accent. That is very quick. Other times, I've done shows, and one of my voice students, Fiona McGuire from Dublin, recorded a lot of lines for me. She just read the script for me, without acting, but since she was from Dublin and that was the accent I needed, she just recorded them, and then I was able to copy the accent. So there are different ways to learn accents. One is just written. The accent can be written in the International Phonetic Alphabet, and you read it along because the symbols stand for vowels and consonants. And if you learn the IPA, you can really do any accented English that
Well,
you
but I
want.
would really say, I mean, the faster way to go about it is what they call vowel substitutions and consonant substitutions. In any accent, like say, the phrase right now. I'm from Colorado, so I say right now. There is a diphthong in right, that is you say right, you go from an A to an E, and there's a diphthong in now. There's actually a triphthong. Now, right? When Ellen says
I
it,
say it with a diphthong. Now.
see, with a quadriphthong, that's right. And she says rat,
Right now.
right now. So, but you can tell, I mean, those are vowel substitutions, right? All you need to do is, okay, well, this guy says right, and this person says rat, right? And so you can, and then there are also consonant substitutions. An easy one that comes to mind is in the London lower class accent, they will substitute an F for a TH. So, and a V for a soft TH, like fava instead of father. But that is a real quick way to do it. And also, these days, now I couldn't do this in the early days, but now with YouTube and all this kind of stuff, you can go on and, you know, if I need an accent from, say, Macon instead of Atlanta, I bet you I can go on YouTube and find a guy who says, this is the way we speak in Macon. And I can listen to him. But then I am picking up on vowel substitutions and consonant substitutions. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so you study it mostly yourself, not having a coach, right?
Yeah, so the question is, do you study yourself, not have a coach?
Right. There is no budget for coaches in voice acting.
No, not in voice acting. In theater, there is. I did a play where I had to have a New Orleans accent, and they did hire a coach. And I did work on my own, but then the dialect coach worked with all of us in the play.
And it goes, it's funny because I sometimes will hire theater actors in Seattle for my radio play company. I have a company called Oral Vision that makes 30-minute murder mysteries in radio plays. And sometimes these theater actors will come in and not realize that I'm thinking that they're voice actors now, and I know that as a voice actor I have to come in and boom, if they need a French accent, I have to do a French accent. And I might not know it until I get there. So they're saying, well, don't we have a dialect coach? I'm like, no, sorry, you're on your own. So that in voice acting, and that's the other thing, theater and films, you get the script beforehand. Usually in voice acting, and particularly in video games, you won't get the script until you get there for the gig. So.
And a lot of times they don't know what the script is until you get there for the gig too.
They'll change it when you're there. Right, they'll rewrite it when you're there, yeah.
All right, let's see, trying to help me out with another hand. How about right here, up here?
Got it. I'll hold the microphone. My question is for Ellen. What is your favorite GLaDOS line that you did?
Well, my favorite is, killing you and giving you good advice aren't mutually exclusive. But I know that a popular one is, we're a lot alike, you and I. You tested me, I tested you. You killed me, oh, wait a minute. I guess I haven't killed you yet. Well, food for thought, you monster.
Thank you. Thank you.
And now she's a potato. All right, let's see here.
Who we got?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Oh, way over there.
Yeah, what that's.
Okay.
We're trying to get everybody around.
You mentioned Deadlock. I wanted to know, how do you feel about playing Dynamo as a character and just about Deadlock as a whole? Do you still feel as attached to him as you do Sniper from TF2?
I'm sorry, there's a lot of
Yeah,
echo.
there's a lot of echo with that one.
You mentioned playing Dynamo and Deadlock. How do you feel about Dynamo and just Deadlock as a whole? Do you still feel as attached to him as you do in Sniper to TF2?
How do you feel about Dino? Dino.
Right, so Dynamo is very interesting. My friend Steve was a big writer on Dota, so he'd worked with me a lot on Dota. And then he just decided that I was Dynamo. And I got the invitation from my agent, here's a gig, I go out there, and it's all hush-hush and secret because the game hadn't come out yet. And I get out there, and you have to understand that Valve will usually hire me for 4 hours. There are two possible contracts. It's a 1-hour contract or a 4-hour contract, and they always hire me the 4-hour contract, and they always only have about an hour and 45 minutes of work for me to do, and the rest of the time we just sit around and gab. And me and Steve would get into cosmology and quantum mechanics and general and specific special relativity theories and all this stuff, because I love it and he loves it too. And when I get out there, Professor Dynamo is just teaching about quantum mechanics, and I thought, you just recorded our conversations and then wrote them down. And so Dynamo was right up my street. I love teaching, and of course he's a very different kind of guy. I mean, Sniper is pretty much a loner. And that's why I love that we get to hear him talk to his dad on the telephone, because really, he just sits up in high places alone with a sniper rifle and he never talks to anybody. Whereas Dynamo, was a professor at a college, and he loves his students, and he has a great sense of humor about his students never turning their work in on time, and he's very kind of resigned and fatalistic about that. So, I mean, Professor Dynamo is very much a different character than Sniper, wouldn't you say? I can't see you now.
Yeah. He's
Okay,
nodding.
good. All right, I hope that answered your question.
All right, where are we? Let's see here. There's one over here. Right.
Hi.
Let's do that one.
I was just curious, you have so many accomplishments that you've achieved already, but is there still something or someone that you wish to work with or to work on?
Well, I mean, I was so blessed. I mean, so 2 years ago, my heart stopped for 11 minutes. And if you want a subtle shift in perspective, I would try that. But other than that, I would avoid it. But it turns out that right before I went out for my walk where my heart stopped, I had auditioned for a movie. And right when I was feeling well enough to work again, I found out from my agent that I got the movie. And that movie was called Train Dreams, and it was nominated for an Academy Award this last winter. So, the director of that movie, Clint, I forget his last name right now, but he was a fabulous guy, and if I ever get to work with him again, that would be great. That would be great.
Yeah. And Joel Edgerton also.
Oh, well, Joel Edgerton, whom I got to work with in the scene, was a wonderful actor as well, yeah.
And I love to teach, and I'm still teaching singing, and I'm still singing myself. And I actually study voice, so I taught for years, and now I'm studying voice once a week with a former student of mine.
She's become your teacher.
She's my teacher now. Her name's Olivia Pedroza, and she's a fabulous voice teacher. And I love it that I get to study with Olivia, and we sing together. Olivia and I perform at my church. We sing duets by Bach and Mozart and Saint-Saëns and Vivaldi, and so, liturgical music, because at my church I can go in and sing anything, because I've been there so long they never say no to me.
So you're gonna ever sing any Colton in there?
Not at church.
Oh, but how about here? Someone say, you sing some Colton here?
This was at 12. I'm making a note here, huge success. It's hard to overstate my satisfaction. Aperture science. We do what we must because we can. For the good of all of us, except the ones who are dead. But there's no sense crying over every mistake. You just keep on trying till you run out of cake. And the science gets done, and you make a neat gun for the people who are still alive.
tail every once in a while.
You guys, that is a first. That is a first. John Patrick Lowrie on the bass.
Hi, YouTube. All right, now it's time for the sniper to sing something.
All right, let's see. There was an old man from Nantucket. Oh, wait a minute.
Are there any birthdays in the house? Paige!
All right, so I wrote another birthday song, okay?
Stand up, Paige.
It's there's this whole big thing. I don't know if you realize that for many, many decades, the song Happy Birthday was copyrighted. And you couldn't use it in any, you had to pay like royalties and all this kind of stuff. So I thought that was stupid. So I wrote my own birthday song. It's my birthday song that I wrote, that is mine, that I wrote. And I give it to you.
For
All right?
Paige.
So pay attention. There are a whole lot of lyrics. Page. It's your birthday. It's your birthday. It is your birthday, and we're here to say, this is your birthday. It's really your birthday. It isn't Christmas, and it isn't birthday. It's your birthday. It's your birthday. This is your birthday. You're here to say, don't you work, it's time to play. It is so your birthday.
Happy birthday, Paige. Happy birthday.
It's not copyrighted. You can sing it anybody you want to.
That's and apologies to Mr. Sandman.
That's right. They should apologize to me.
All right, any other, let's see, where's the next question? Yeah. Oh,
No, Ken, you've had your hand up.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Pyro.
Do we have a microphone? There you go.
Yes.
Take
Coming.
it over to Pyro.
So, my question is, do you guys have any like theories or headcanons or just generally ideas about either like your characters in Portal and TF2 or the world they live in?
That isn't canon?
Yeah.
No.
The fun thing for me is that I know that all of you guys are intelligent people and you're with good minds and good grasp on the nature of reality. I also know that in your heart of hearts, you know that we live in Team Fortress. We're just always there, right? I mean, how many people of you know that? Sure, everybody. That's just the truth, right? So the interesting thing to me is Heavy has a sandwich, and I have coffee. Does anybody else have anything to eat and drink in that game?
Scout has bomb.
Yeah, right.
Medic has lots of blood, but I don't think he eats it.
So
Oh, now Administrator has cigarettes and martinis.
that's true. That's true. So it's just obviously the center of the entire Team Fortress 2 universe is about hydration and good, healthy diet. That's my theory.
That's why Demo is a functioning alcoholic.
Who's next?
All right, I think, yeah.
Over here.
Hi. First of all, I want to say I would definitely beat you in pinball. I'm just saying. Second of all, I wanted to ask, what is it like? Because as an actor, I want to pursue acting as a career. What is it like to go through the audition process and be in the show working with directors and stuff? What's the correlation between directors and actors?
Well, I mean, it really depends on the director. As in any other profession, you will work with people who really know what they're doing, and you'll work with people who you wonder how the heck they got the gig. And it can be, I don't know if it's worse than any other profession. I think that, like say in engineering, you either know what you're doing or you don't. Your designs either work or they don't. And in the arts, it's a little bit hazier, you know, I mean, and so it can be, well, who has worked with who and who knows who and stuff like that. I've worked with some wonderful directors that I would work with anytime, any place, anywhere. And then I've worked with some interesting directors that had really good ideas but were horrible people managers. And even though I thought they put a good show together, I would never want to work with them again. And then there are just directors who don't know what they're doing.
And then also, you know, John and I have both done a lot of theater work. I'm not going to name her name, but there is a wonderful stage director who I have worked with, have seen her productions, wonderful. I recently saw another production that she directed, and I felt like she just didn't get that particular show. So I was sort of really, you know, I was so hopeful, but I was very disappointed because I thought, no, she didn't understand this piece. So that happens too. So I think that there are directors who work well with some products, and also some directors who work well with some people, but not with others.
I mean, there is an old saying that 90% of directing is casting, and that's great. And I mean, I think that, you know, when I direct, just to tell you my philosophy of directing, to me, an actor's job is to advocate for their character. That they need to know what their character wants, they need to know where their character is going, and they need, in the rehearsal, to advocate for that. If ever there is a discussion, if ever there's a disagreement, the actor's job is to advocate for their character. My job as a director is to advocate for the story. And I've directed hundreds of shows, and I have never run into a situation where if the actor is advocating for their character and I'm advocating for the story, that we have some kind of irreconcilable difference. We can always come to an agreement.
And I will tell you, I have been directed by John many times. He is a wonderful director, and actors love working with him. Me particularly, and it's so interesting, when we met years ago doing this show, he's in the orchestra pit, I'm on stage, and we are riding the bus around Europe together, and we start talking about the show, and he gives me ideas to get bigger laughs. I really liked him.
And that's all that we did on the bus, was talk about the show. Nothing else. We didn't do anything else. We talked about the show. It was all talking. There was nothing else going on the bus. Just talk. Oh, you don't believe me?
Of course we
But does that help at all? Does that answer your question?
Yes, and I still do believe I will beat you.
You still believe that you'll beat me at pinball? Okay. When I play someone at pinball, my first move is to cut off their arms.
That's your feet.
Thanks for the idea.
All right, do you have another question? These lights are amazing.
Yeah, I know.
But, all right, here we go.
All right, thank you. Hi, so this is for John. I'm sure you've probably been aware of the thousands of Team Fortress 2 memes that you've seen all over the internet, and I know you've been in, both you and Ellen have been active participants in one yourself. What's one meme that you've seen on the internet that's gotten a genuine chuckle out of you?
Well, I loved Who Killed Heavy. I thought that was very much in the spirit of the game, and I think that. But I'm the wrong guy to ask. I mean, I've seen a lot of them, but they're over the years, and I'm always thinking about other stuff. So I've seen a lot of them that were hilarious, but I can't remember what their names were, and so I'm sorry. Bring up some of your favorites, and I'll tell you what I thought about.
I have to add that Harry 101 UK has animated, you know, all the Jonathan Colton songs and the song that I wrote, you know, Don't Say Goodbye, GLaDOS song. And Harry 101 UK is so incredibly clever. So I watch his videos of my songs and I just love them. And of course, you know, John and I comment on YouTube about, oh my God, this is a good one. So yeah, we do see stuff that's very, very well put together and clever and funny and.
But to show you how my brain works, I just saw one like earlier today where the sniper ends up, you know, lying out on the ground on this green background, and somebody comes in and drops a card on his chest with a very sexy female goat or something like that.
Cat.
You know, cat?
A cat.
Okay, right. Wearing a tank top and, you know, décolletage everywhere and stuff like that. And I can't remember the title of that one. I thought that was hilarious.
Let's go!
So you guys know all these, and I think they're all great, but I just don't have a good memory for all of their titles. I couldn't find them again if you paid me, so.
And I do want to mention, just because going back to the, you know, you comment on things, that does mean a lot to people, and it's kind of like a senpai noticed me type of thing. So thank you for going around and doing that. I know it means a lot to the people when you do that.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. No, and I love all the creativity. I mean, I've just been blown away. I'm sorry.
Have you seen Emesis Blue?
Abyssus Blue.
Emesis Blue.
Yes, I'm sure I have.
Yes.
The horror film, the TF2 horror
Yes.
Right. It was the sequel to Navis's Mode, I think. No, I have seen it, and that was really cool. But you know, these have been coming out for 20 years, and you have to remember that I've spent most of that time way up on the top of this tower drinking coffee and turning it into Girardi. Do we have any other questions?
Any other questions? We're running a couple. We got about 10 minutes left, so we can get like maybe 1 or 2 questions left.
Hello. So I'm not an actor or musician. Well,
You are a shepherdess.
yeah. I'd like to know, John, where do you get your Hawaiian print shirts? I must know.
From me. He loves them, so every Valentine's Day and his birthday and Arbor Day and Christmas and any opportunity, I give him one.
And Hawaiian Shirt Day.
Hawaiian Shirt Day. What day is that?
Okay, well, there's not a problem.
There's been in wine.
There's King Kamehameha Day.
Yes.
How many people have celebrated King Kamehameha Day? Racists!
All right, where do we have it? Do we have another question?
Where's our microphone?
Right back. Yeah, I see one right there.
Who do you think would win in a battle, GLaDOS or the administrator?
GLaDOS would win, and the administrator wouldn't care. And that is my answer.
All right, let's see. I think I see some hands
Oh,
over here. Yeah.
So, obviously we know about your main roles, all of the roles that we all know about the wonderful roles that you got famous for. Are there any roles that are less talked about that you have a special place in your heart for?
Oh, yeah. No, the Tracy Letts play, August Osage County. A shortened version of that play was made with Meryl Streep as the mother of this Oklahoma family and Julia Roberts as her oldest daughter. That's a shortened version of that play. But I had the opportunity to do that play when I was 64. We know that song. But it's actually, the character in the play is 64, and I played that, and it's a fabulous play. And the mother in the family she's an alcoholic, and it's a very dark play, And of course, who was he didn't direct it, but who was my drama coach? John Patrick Lowrie was my drama coach. And I loved doing that role. And, you know, I had friends in the cast, and I mean, that was a great experience. That's one example.
I think my least celebrated role, I got this gig when my friend Frank Simcoe was in town, and I got the gig, and I said, "Hey Frank, you want to come down and see what I do?" He'd never seen me do voice acting, and he said, "Sure." So he came down to the recording studio with me. I think it was at Clatter and Din, and I went in there, and they said, "Yeah, this is a PSA, a public service announcement. I believe it was for like breast cancer or something like that. Some disease they're trying to raise money for." And they said, "Yeah, we just need somebody to say, 'That's right.'" And so I said, "Okay." And I said, "That's right." I said, "Okay, thanks." And do you need a take two or anything? No, that's good. And so we walked out, and Frank said, "That's what you do for a living?" So that was one of my favorite roles.
That kind of ties to the follow-up question that I was going to ask you. You may have just answered it, so you can just tell me. Yeah, you just answered the question. Because I like asking people who do a lot of voice acting this, because you'll see, like, if you go on somebody's IMDb or something, they're like, additional voices. Do you have any, or is that your memorable, do you have any memorable additional voices, like wild ones that you've been asked to do?
Well, I mean, the things that I remember when I did The Suffering, they had me do 13 different characters in one session. And you have to understand that when you're doing video games, the last thing you do on each character is like die and get hit and stuff like that. And differentiating between going in a Boston accent and in a New York accent and in an Atlanta accent, I mean, that's tough. So, and the last character I did was actually one of the biggest characters in the game, and I forget his name now, but he was an executioner at this prison that had ripped open a tear in space-time through to the nether regions, and so the whole prison now was occupied by dead people. And he used to be the executioner there, who was so into his work that he would try each method of execution, and he actually died when he tried the gas that he was using to gas people, and so he was just this cloud of gas. And after all these other characters, I had to come up with his voice that's all kind of mostly gassy and stuff like that, and so. But it was a great challenge. It was a great challenge. And I, to me, I mean, I think that if I was really famous for, like, say, The Sniper, and people only thought that I did an Australian accent, then maybe I would say, I also do other accents and stuff like that. But I've never really understood that part of promoting yourself. So, also I do some other stuff you may not have heard of.
All right, well, we are unfortunately at time. If you have other questions, you are going to be going back to your table for the rest of the weekend.
Right, we're going to stop into the TF2 meetup.
There is a TF2 meetup, and we are going to be there. And then we will be go back to our table in the other building.
Yep, so if you have any other questions that we didn't get to here, thank you so much for being here. Tell me about where people can find you online. I especially want to know where we can listen to your radio plays that you direct. Like, tell me about that.
Right, so the website where you can buy all these radio plays for like $1.99 a piece is called harrynile.com, HARRYNILE, and he's one of our detectives. If you go on YouTube, you can look for The Further Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. I play Sherlock Holmes in that.
Also, you can hear John's music on
well, if you go to my YouTube channel, John Lowrie, you can see all the Search for Sandwich videos. Show of hands, how many people have seen the Search for Sandwich videos?
Got a couple over here. Yeah.
Okay, well, spread the word, guys. Spread the word. They're pretty good. And a lot of my music. Yeah.
And then, of course, you can always buy John's novel, Dancing with Eternity, which came out in 2011, won several awards. It's a science fiction novel. You can buy it, online. It's also on Audible. And John and I recorded all the voices. John does the narrator and the male characters, and I do all the female characters. So it's called Dancing with Eternity.
And it was
it's
produced by
wonderful.
my radio play company, so they're full sound effects and music and all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty fun. Okay, anything else?
That is it. Thank you so much for supporting the Southern Fried Gaming Expo. Let's give it one more time for our new best friends, John and Ellen.